Alright guys, welcome back to the only Dune Spice Wars guide you're going to need to become a legend at this game. You're back with the champ, Cream the Legend. Today we're going to do a video on the factions, the tier list of which factions are the best in the game, according to me. And we're going to do a Councilor tier list as well. And this is going to go right off the top of my head based on my experience of playing this game, winning several tournaments, and running several tournaments. The list might be a little controversial. It might not be, but it's my honest opinion, and I hope you guys enjoy. The link for the community Discord is in the description. I hope you guys would join us for some wonderful events that we like to run for this game, private lobbies, and just hanging out and having fun. So let's get right into it, okay, guys? So the first faction and the only S tier faction in the game is the Smuggler. Now, this is based on the fact that it requires a lot of skill to kind of micro their army. Their army is one of the more micro intensive armies in the game. Um, they are able to do everything well. They're the only, in my opinion, they're the only faction that can stand toe to toe with Corrino militarily and win. But again, that requires skill, knowing which armory upgrades, knowing how to micro the army, moving it in a strategic way where you can avoid some some of the heavy weapons of the other factions, including operations. But this opinion is based on the fact that as a competitor and organizer of tournaments, the Smugglers have the highest win rate of any faction. Okay, and the top of the top smugglers that I've seen in the years that I've been playing Dune Spice Wars have ran circles around every other top level player that has gone against them. I'm talking about Antonell, I'm talking about Logic, I'm talking about Isaac back in the day. Um, these guys just like won tournament after tournament at the highest stages that Dune Spice Wars has to offer, and they did it using the smugglers, and it's because they're so versatile. Well, they have the best operation in the game. It's called Comms Jam, which cancels every other faction's operations. They can safely get their army out of harm's way with the transport network, extraction network operation, and their army just hits like a truck with the snipers. They also can go super melee heavy with scabs and free company. I mean, they're just super versatile. They're good at choming. They're good at hedging. They're not that bad at goving too. So they can basically do it all, and they can assassinate really well, which might be some of the most underused mechanic of the smugglers because they get one extra infiltration cell at their 10k bonus that you can activate on one faction on the map using their main base underground headquarters. Their underground headquarters also make them really incredible. They can steal spice, they can make intel, they can generate Solari. I mean, they're so good, and a lot of their late game income comes independent of the spice exchange rate. There's not much more I can say about the smugglers except that if you know what you're doing on the smugglers, you have a very high chance to win the game. They're the only S tier faction in the game. Um, this tier list is kind of wonky, so let's just change that. This should be A, whoever made this, and this should be B, and there we go. So the two A tier factions in the game are Corrino and Atreides. Um, a lot of debates have been had about which one's slightly better. I'm of the opinion that Atreides is slightly better. A lot of the community members will disagree with me, and that's okay. So I don't know if it matters if we move them around like this. Let's just start with Atreides. First of all, they have 3 out of their 4 counselors are super top tier. Talking about Jessica, talking about Thufir, and then Yui is not as good as the other two, but he's also very good. And then Paul, who's their 4th counselor, is also very good, but he's kind of like a wild card, I would say. But as far as Atreides goes, yes, they can't pillage, but they can capture villages without leaving their territory. They have an operation called Ceasefire, which when you pair with peaceful annexation, aka capturing villages without leaving your territory, if a village is blank, there's nothing anybody else can do unless you're a smuggler. Uh, and you throw a comms jam on the ceasefire to stop you from capturing the village. Your army is incredibly strong. Their 2 heroes, Oh yeah, I didn't talk about the smuggler heroes too much, but they're both decent. I wouldn't say their heroes are the best, and I wouldn't say that their capital ship is the best as far as the smuggler goes. But their army and every one of their other mechanics and their operations just make them a little bit above everybody, in my opinion. But with the Atreides, your army, it's very hard to kill. Your army is based on getting them veteraned up, and then you have a unit called the support drone, which saves dying units. So you can effectively win fights without losing units if you play Atreides well. On the defense, like fighting on your own home turf is almost impossible to take something off of an Atreides 1v1. Especially if they have Jessica, which I think is the second or third best counselor in the game. They can just force truce you, and unless it's super late game, you're not gonna like break the truce by betraying, because you're gonna need your lands rat standing. You don't want to incur some of the debuffs that come along with breaking a truce by betraying. So and she gives you free treaties. I mean, the Atreides can basically run their whole economy, influence, and political game just off of treaties, because when you give a treaty to a Atreides Jessica, everybody wants to give it because there's no authority cost for it. So Thufir, like amazing counselor. We're gonna get into the counselors. I don't want to focus too much on the counselors. The counselors will be in the second half of this video. So let's just go on to the next faction, which is Corrino. Arguably the second best, arguably the third best. I think the community opinion is that it's the second best. I just find that in the late game at high level lobbies, when things are going down, usually somebody's gonna have to get liberated or killed. And in that situation, Corrino is at a huge disadvantage, even though Corrino can crank out massive numbers of passive income. Their authority generation is in the crapper at the end of the game because you have so many propaganda offices online, which cost you -1 authority at the cost of producing 20% more production out of your usually craft workshops. But at the end of the game, the Atreides, in most situations at high level lobbies where people are trading leads, when somebody's leading, you destroy them or you liberate the regions. Unless there's a smuggler in the lobby, which is why Smugglers S tier, and I'm basically talking about this from the highest competitive level. The Atreides is almost guaranteed to be a free win unless they're like super far behind, which is never going to happen because Atreides hedge really well thanks to cultural assimilation and peaceful annexation. So Atreides is just so good at closing out games in those tight situations when people are getting liberated. That's why I give them the edge over Corrino. But Corrino militarily is superior. Their operation, they can cancel airfields. They can just throw orbital bombardments at you. They can make massive amounts of intel thanks to the way they can quirk. Their army's insane. When Sikia, one of the best heroes in the game, um, they get a second base drop. They basically get two spawns. They chome. They hedge and gov really well. It's really hard to win on Corrino on chome, but each chome that you buy gives them military power. They're almost unassassinable because they have a tech that gives them 3 agents for free into the counter intel spot. They just have so many strengths. They're hard to kill early game too because they can basically just sustain themselves around their villages right under their main base turret for like the first 4 or 5 months of the game, and still come back later because they can crank out stupid amounts of passive hedge. When we had like some interactions with the developers, Corrino was kind of meant to feel OP, and they kind of are, but they're not unbeatable. And when there's a very good lobby that's playing the game at the highest level, everybody understands the threat that Corrino presents, and they act accordingly. So Atreides and Corrino, the two A tier factions. As far as the B tier goes, I'm gonna put Harkonnen in the B tier solo. Harkonnen is fantastic. Like they have a great mechanic called Instill Fear, which allows them to capture villages for super cheap at the end of the game. The only problem is that they can't cook passive hedge as well as the top 3 factions. So most games come down to hedge, and the problem with Harkonnen is that they don't have their tier 4 green tech on the bottom right is called Symbols of Authority, and it's not Wonders of the Desert, which means they don't get that extra Crafts Workshop production. So they have to have a lot of specials, a lot of blank regions, which is not undoable. But usually you'll find that Harkonnen lags behind just a little bit unless they get an awesome spawn or it's a very high skill player and they can press their military advantage, which Harkonnen usually have early game with their operations and with their army. Their army is the second. It's like the second or third best. I think Smugglers can beat Harkonnen depending on the engagement, depending on the operations, depending on the if the capital ships are out. You know, how good is the person using the Wraith? How good is the person using the Overlord? I think Smugglers and Harkonnen kind of go toe to toe, but Harkonnen is just completely hard countered by Corrino. It's very hard because of the way the Executioner upgrades work, which is the Harkonnen's elite unit, and Executioners just pretty much is like, I mean, not the Executioner, the Sardaukar is like the best, in my opinion, the best elite unit in the game. So like Corrino has a lot of really good tools against Harkonnen. But again, really good faction. They can spam operations. They chome. They're the Smugglers and Harkonnen are the best chomers in the game. They can win by chome. They can win by hedge. I think Harkonnen actually prefers to win by chome because it's a little easier for them uh, than hedge. If they can like beat down the guy who's competing for chome with them, it's even better. Um, just good counselors. Like they have that the recruitment counselor, which is one of the best counselors in the game. Just behind a little behind Atreides, definitely behind Corrino, who's a hard counter, and I think definitely behind Smuggler as well. So I'm gonna put Harkonnen in B tier. In the C tier, I'm gonna put Vernius and Fremen. And let's just start with Vernius. Vernius late game is a monster. They can effectively win fights against everybody thanks to their uh, nodal network. Their units can heal. Um, if the faction that you're fighting doesn't have stealth detection, it becomes a nightmare because of the way one of their heroes works, which gives stealth to your engineers, which can heal your units, and you can space your engineers out amongst different tiles. So if they do a probe setup to scan for stealth units in one tile, your engineers can be unseen if you have like two or three, right? And you have one here and one here. They can't really do anything about it unless they kill the hero, which will remove the stealth. But the hero's stealth too, so you just keep him safe. Militarily, their army's awesome. Most of it is mechanical. It doesn't require supply. They have a Achilles heel that again is only really exploited at the top levels of the game. They simply cannot win a fight against Corrino if the Corrino specs out their army a certain way, and the Fremen and the Smuggler and the Heart can kind of just like if they choose to. It's kind of a double-edged sword because unless you kill them, then everybody else is getting their technology. Because when you ally Vernius, you can get all their tech for free, and they're kind of their gimmick in the game is like they have the most research, so they can, um, fly through the tech tree, and then you get the benefit of that if you're allied with them. But they do have an Achilles heel. One is like if you destroy their nodal network, each of their villages has to be connected through a node, and no two villages can share a node, right? So it has to be one noded and one noded. It can't be one noded and one noded and one noded. They can't be touching. It can only be one individual noded village touching to build another node. And if you destroy the nodal network, late game, it just completely destroys them. Their fuel cells go away, their water goes away. And also in the beginning, their army is mech based, so it costs Solari, and you don't have a lot of Solari in the beginning. So if somebody chooses to come over and take all your spice fields and bully you into into submission before you get to 5k hedge and you get border defenses and you can try to defend yourself, they kind of become like a sitting duck all game unless somebody else decides to bail them out. So this is like contingent upon if you can get them to the late game. If you can get them to the late game, I'd put them at A tier. But if you're just playing them like how I would play them, like kind of like, look, I don't really need your tech, bro. I just want you to sit there and die and or not be a problem for me as I'm trying to win the game later. I kind of put them in the C tier. Um, so that's where I'm gonna put Vernius. Now Fremen, for me, Fremen is S tier because I win a lot of games on Fremen. But if you look at and there was a point in time where I was just winning like every tournament game and final on Fremen, but I'm kind of like not I don't want to base the list on my own talents and skills because I understand that I've been playing this game a long time. I have thousands of hours, and I kind of know every little detail about this game to kind of make Fremen work. For the average player, Fremen is going to be very hard to win with, and even for the top players, Fremen is super hard to close games out on because they don't have airfields. If their hero dies at the end, that's 150 authority, so you're basically playing heroless if your hero dies after 25k because you need every smidgen of authority that you have. And it all comes down to the fact that you're able to capture 2 or 3 villages at the end before somebody else can close out the game in whatever sneaky, talented way you can figure out to do it. Whether it's worm riding to the other side of the map and capturing a region, or having like a couple in your back line while defending your front line, while trying to like 2 or 3v1. It's very hard to do. It's not undoable. It's one of my favorite things to do in this game. I've become very good at it. But for your average player, they will find that the Fremen is very hard to win with, very hard to micro. Their economy requires just, very good understanding of how the siege alliances work, how to manage that. They don't chome well, they don't gov well. Their only win condition is hegemony, and everybody knows that. So everybody knows like what to do against the Fremen to stop them from winning is basically to um, prevent them from getting a hedge victory. So, and in the D tier and maybe even C tier, I'm gonna put Ecaz. Again, this is also contingent upon tournament data, game knowledge, and overall vibes of Ecaz. Super weak early game. If the Fremen, Hark, or Smuggler want to come over and duke you early game, you pretty much can't do anything. But again, if you can get them to the late game at like 25, 26k, they almost become S tier because they have a mechanic called trophies, which with your champions you can farm hegemony each time you kill an enemy unit, each time you kill an enemy building, you get 100 hedge. So like at the end of the game, their army is pretty nice. If you can get like a max vetted, perfected stack with Ecaz, you can do some serious damage. But that's like, everybody knows what's happening and what's coming. So to get the dub on Ecaz and to get the dub on Fremen is two of the most satisfying things in Dune Spice Wars because they're really hard to do. So, but I would place the Fremen above Ecaz. The Fremen to me just engage better. They match up well against Corrino. They match up extremely well against Smuggler. Their worst matchup is Harkonnen and Vernius under nodes. If the Vernius is fighting in open sand, they pretty much destroy them because they have stealth detection. They can just take out the engineers and then it works really well. Um, I think they match up extremely well against Ecaz, but as far as Ecaz goes, like great army except against the Fremen. Can close out games really well. They can gov really well. They can hedge really well. They can kind of chome really well too. But again, these two factions, the Vernius. I'm actually gonna put the Fremen ahead of Vernius here. Uh, but I think the Achilles heel of our worst two factions, maybe I might even put Vernius D tier, but I don't know. They're not that bad. Most people will choose to let them live, which to me doesn't make any sense, especially if they're your neighbor because you just want their stuff. Um, but these two factions, they're just their Achilles heels are huge, and it takes a lot of luck to have things go right. Like you have to get a good spawn, you got to make sure your neighbors aren't attacking you, you got to make sure there's somebody in the lobby that can probably come save you if you need help early game, and then you can put yourself in a position to win the game, but a lot of things have to go right. Whereas like with these other factions, like dude, Smugglers doesn't care about the spawn. They can just take regions wherever. Corrino can just make a whole new spawn. This guy can just annex wherever he wants. He can just bully his way wherever he wants. These guys, they don't care about spawn either. Kind of, sort of, because they can in the early game they have such a big advantage. They can just go liberate whatever they want and then take it for themselves later and then bunker it down. So that's the faction tier list. The Smugglers, and I would say Smugglers, Corrino, and Atreides have been the most successful tournament factions. The Fremen is kind of a wild card just because I won those tournaments, but I'm not your average player. Hark has won a couple, maybe one or two here and there, but not so much. But Hark, I think, is still really good. I think people just have to play Hark a little bit more aggressively, and then they can stand toe to toe with these guys, or they just chome really hard. So that's your faction tier list for Dune Spice Wars. Let's go on to the counselors. All right, so We're gonna start off with the Atreides counselors. Jessica easily S tier, Thufir easily S tier, Yue A tier, and Paul is B tier. Now, if you guys want to know specifically what these counselors do, real quick, I have them here. Thufir can hasten mission progress and construction at the cost of Solari. He gives you +2 knowledge and 15% max health and +30% regeneration speed. So his whole gimmick, it pairs well with the Atreides army, because as your army gets max vetted, they get stronger as far as health goes, and then they regenerate quicker. So if you're really good at micro, and this is what can make Atreides a juggernaut, you can have your drones pick up your dead units, put them back to your base, heal up real quick, and then put them back in the fight while your tankier units are still going. And you can basically have an almost unkillable army if you play your cards right. So he's awesome. She's like incredible. You can use your influence to force choose somebody. Treaties have no upkeep cost. And then the betraying faction has minus 50% Landsred standing loss. It's just so good. You're under attack. You could just force choose somebody, and then you can focus on what you were doing because they're likely not going to betray. And then Paul, he's not even that bad. I have a win on Paul in my VODs that you guys should check out. But he makes so much authority. 2 authority per ally siege. If you can get 3 sieges, you're making like 20 authority at the end of the game. His only problem is that he's so RNG dependent, depending on like if you get sieges or if you get a spawn with too many deep deserts and there's not a lot of regions to take, like as far as like the entire map goes. But again, they don't really have a bad counselor, which makes them one of the best factions in the game, as you can see here. Okay, so then we're gonna go on to Corrino. Okay, they have also 2 S tier counselors. Irulan is outrageously good. Let me just show you the window here real quick. So let's just put them in where they belong. So Irulan and Fenring, just amazing. Zumgaram, not bad. I put him in B tier. Gaius, not bad. I'd put her in A tier. They could easily go like this. It just depends on your playstyle and what you like. Like for me, I'm more of a hedge person, so I put Gaius below Zumgaran. I think Zumgaran can be a little bit more useful for hedge, especially at the end of the game if you're behind and you have to send an ally. But let's just take a look at what they do. So Irulan is going to be able to give you the extra building slot, and she allows you to build one more instance of each building. So one village can have 2 crafts workshops, 2 investment offices, and 2 propaganda offices. And if it's a scholarly village, it just like the hedge goes crazy, right? And she allows you to quirk really well. Just an amazing counselor, absolutely amazing. And Fenring is just incredible too. He allows you to discover POIs wherever you want. So in the early game, you're basically stealing everybody's research POIs. Then in the late game, you're stealing free units, stealing authority off the map. I mean, these two paired is how I like to play them. And it says hard, but there's nothing hard about him. He's just so good. She's really good if you're trying to do a sneaky gov play. Corrino has Imperial Mandate, which allows him to change whether a resolution in the Landsred is for everybody or for somebody. And she just makes that count as double, and she can prio the charters faster than anybody else. And he's just like a military monster. He can give out sarts to your allies for no cost and give you plus 15% power. But I think he's worse than. Actually, I'm gonna change my opinion. I think he's worse than Gaius because at the end of the game, he'll keep you alive in the early game, but at the end of the game, everybody's going to know you have Zum, and you're probably not going to have any alliances because you're probably leading anyway. So, um, yeah, he's okay. All right, so Ecaz counselors, we have Vip. He's an S tier counselor for sure. Like, without bringing Vip to the battle, who looks like a woman with a mustache, I think that you're limiting the way Ecaz can play because he gives you immunity from negative charge, and we'll look at what they all do in a second. I think Sanya is pretty useless. Mesa's okay. I mean, the best combo is usually Mesa Vip, and then Rivi's also pretty. They're both pretty crappy, and that's also what makes them really hard to win on because these two count like their best counselor is yes he's an S tier counselor, but then the pairing counselor is like whack. But let's just quickly look at what they do. Ecaz, so she gives you 15 Solari production for each sanctuary, which is really not much, and then masterpieces are cheaper to build. He gives you +1 military experience, and and if they're at max level, they have no Solari upkeep. He's not that bad. He's not that bad. I'm gonna put him in like C tier. I just think he would need like a little more to make him go crazy good, right? And then VIP lands rat immunity, become like you become invulnerable to negative resolutions. He's what allows them to gov really well because they can become immune to loss of rights, and then once they get a charter with their T4 blue tech, they basically can't lose it. So Ecaz definitely the best goving faction in the game. Um, but Gov is, I think, the weakest win condition, so that's why I rank them so bad on the tier list. And then two lands right standing upon building a masterpiece is incredible because you could just he pairs well with Sonya, and then he also pairs well with Mesa, who's the last one, who gives you 100% authority refund for abandoning a village. So you can basically go around the map, put a bunch of masterpieces in, abandon the villages that you don't want, get your authority back, and continue to do it if people let you. So VIP is a must pick, and then these other three, like I don't know, you can experiment with them. I usually go Mesa, VIP, or Sanya, or I've tried them. I've tried a combination of them all, and I don't think that there's. I just know that you have to have VIP, and the other three, it's a coin flip. So good luck winning on Ecaz. Again, one of the most satisfying things, but really really hard to do. All right, Fremen, Jamis is S tier. Stilgar is S tier, Romalo is A tier, and Shimum should have his own category so bad. Um, these guys right here is the way I like to play them. This guy gives you plus, let's just look at it, I don't want to misquote it, but plus 10% damage to your enemies when you're fighting on their territory, and you get 70 authority upon liberating. And then you also have a tech in the Fremen tech tree that gives you Solari for liberating, so he just pairs so well for their playstyle. Really good design. She's not bad. They nerfed her, but she used to be. To me, I used to play her over Jamis until they nerfed Malo. But 3 intel production per deployed harvesting team and half an authority production. So if you have like 3 spice fields, it's 1.5 authority. It's not bad. But I just don't think she's as good as these two. And then Stilgar reveals all sieges at the start of the game and just a flat +1 authority. So good because you get all your siege alliances early. You don't have to find them. That +1 authority is nice. I think he's the. You know what? I'm gonna change this a little bit. I think Stilgar is A tier because you can make a really good argument to play Jamis Romalo or Jamis Stilgar because you could be like, all right, well, that +1 authority, whatever, I can get that from 3 harvesters, and then with Romalo, I get extra intel, so I'll take it. The only problem is your siege alliances are going to be slightly delayed. With him, he can like power your early game production because if you have all your sieges revealed, you get like 2 knowledge sieges, 2 Plascrete sieges, 2 Solari sieges, and then 1 whatever. Like, dude, that's early game production, early game tempo. But I think with Jamis is like the pick, and then you just figure out how you want to play. Is it Jamis Romalo or Jamis Stilgar? And then Shamum is like kind of their eco counselor, but so bad. I mean, +4%. Like each village producing at least 12 water gives you -4% upkeep and then +4 production. So you basically have to have a village producing 12 water, which means you need like a 4 wind strength village or 3 wind strength and leave it all blank. And it's like they could have did better with this. At most you'll get up to like 30% chome, and then you'll be you'll be like without production. I don't know. Kenry's done a lot of experimenting with this, and a lot of people play it as a meme. Just really bad. Probably the worst counselor in the game, like easily. Okay. All right, moving on to um, Hark. Okay, this is just to make sure I don't get it right because I don't have their pick. Okay, this is Kudu. Kudu, I think, is S tier. +2 manpower, -30% recruitment time, just absolutely incredible. Um, and then like their other three, like I'm not sure if I want to put Piter in S or A. I'm gonna put him in A, and I'm gonna put Vatia in A. Which one's Vatia? I think this one is, yeah, Kron Vatia is this one. I'm gonna put him in A. I'm gonna put Fade in B, and I'll tell you why as we go through what they do. Um, so Vatia is kind of like really good for tempo and for choming. And if you're gonna go chom, you basically go Kudu Vatia, and you get every time the rebellions in your village spawn, which there's gonna be a lot of because you're gonna be oppressing with offices of order. You're gonna get 50 Solari, and then you get he just gives you a lot of production too early. So he's really good for choming. He's just a must pick. I mean, plus 2 manpower flat, minus 30% recruitment time, and they gain 1 armor if there's a Harkonnen operation active in your fight, which there's always going to be because you're always using sleeper agents or combat drugs or toxic vapors or something. Um, yeah, he's like an S tier counselor for sure. And then Fade, I put him in B tier because if there's a Corrino in the lobby, which there likely is, you're never going to be able to use the corruption, which puts minus 30 on whoever gets the resolution except Harkonnen, because everything's going to be either for everybody or you're just going to get outvoted. So he's situational. Like if there's no Corrino in the lobby, everybody can gang up on like a political threat and just tank their Landsrad using the Harkonnen taint. And then while at least one village is under oppression, plus 20% influence production, plus 100% agent recruitment speed, it's okay. Piter, amazing. Like you can sack agents, they give you Solari, and then you um, get like super cheap missions because each mission cost is reduced by 15%. So Piter is really really good. I think I would put Piter in like the A tier for sure, which is exactly what I did. But Hark is kind of flexible. I mean, most people always pick Kudu, that's why he's S tier, and then the other three, whatever style you're going for, play around and see what you like. Lingar, I think is C or B at best. Lashawn is uh, B. Staban is A, and then where's stacking off? Did I get stacking off? Do we not have? Oh, stacking off's right here. He's S tier. Okay, let's go get into right what they do. So Stakhanov is the guy that you want. Okay, he's the one that makes the smuggler because smugglers doesn't take a lot of villages. So when you have a village captured that's in isolation by itself, not touching any other smuggler villages, you get the siege takes 100% longer, which is what makes them amazing at the end of the game, right? Because if tax is about to hit and you got to liberate a special off the smuggler, oh, but it's gonna take what 12 days? It's pretty much over. Um, and he gives you plus 20% production, making your crafts workshops just absolutely incredible. Lashawn gives you plus 15 Solari production, plus 1 influence. If you're going to play Assassination Smugs, you want to go Lashawn for sure, because she gives you that information level, 50%. Uh, you gain 1 information level for every time somebody takes a trade with you. And then Staban gives you 1 extra UHQ. It's just so good. A lot of eco value, a lot of everything value from that. And then Lingar, I mean, you get the extra water, and then you get those 2 UHQs. You can make an argument like if you're gonna go aggro smugs, the extra water early game is useful, but I don't know, guys. It's your call there. All right, the last one, Bolig. I'm gonna put Bolig S tier, Bronzo A tier, and then these guys, depending on your style, whatever you want to do, but we can look at the descriptions here for Bolig. Bolig, like he lets you build the Rainbow Vault, which um, gives you 1 knowledge per district bonus. So if you have a single in all 3 of the slots, you get so much knowledge. He just lets you get like month 5 tech in like month 2 or 3. He's incredible. Bronzo I think is also super good. Minus 20% authority for your expansions. Um, just allows you to expand super fast. Pilru is there like Landsrad guy? Not bad. Um, I've seen somebody try to Gov Rush with him, but again, super super tough to do. And then Tessia, uh, 1 knowledge sorry, 1 information level is required. Is what information lower? trying to get this out. Information levels required for spy missions are lowered by 1. And then if you're not researching anything, you get 50% of your knowledge turned into Intel and Solari. It's okay. I don't think you're going to have any problems with Intel or Solari at the end of the game if you're Vernius and you made it that far, because you're controlling so much spice and you have your machines on your enemies and they can't be captured, so they get like a lot of intel off the bat. Okay, guys, that's it. Good luck out there. Let me know what you think about the tier list. Join our community in the Discord below, and we'll see you for the next video, guys. Thanks.